Good evening, everybody. How are you today? Let me share my screen. Let me know if you can see it, okay? Give me a moment. Is it clear? Can everyone see my screen? Give me a moment. Okay. Hello, good evening, everybody. I'm teacher Mavis, and thank you for joining me this evening, okay, to learn how to improve your composition scores and, of course, to learn writing techniques and skills to make your compositions more interesting and more effective, okay? So what I see will be the chat that's running, okay, as the lesson is happening. And if you have a question, if let's say you're answering a question I'm asking everybody, just type it in chat. Okay, just type it in chat because I am looking at it as I am conducting the webinar. Okay, so let me ask my first question. Have all of you downloaded the materials for today? Have all of you downloaded the materials for today? Today, this one, okay, the one that you see on the screen now. Session 3, climax that wows, show, don't tell your way to top marks. Do you have it? Okay, if you don't have it for whatever reason, you can download it. My colleague has, thank you, Sweti, all right, has shared the link with all of you. And let's say you still can't download it, it's okay. Just have pieces of paper with you, okay, your notebook, and jot down key ideas or notes as I go along. Okay, thank you, Sweti. So while we are waiting for some students to come in, okay, for a start, this week we are looking at the climax, right? The climactic part of a composition. For all of you who are online, can you tell me what is the climax of a story? What is it supposed to do? What is its function? Just share with me what you know. Okay, just share with me what you. I'm looking at the chat. Share your responses with me in the chat. Okay, instead of Q&A in the chat. What is the climax in a story? What is its function? Like every part of a story has its function, right? So when we talked about rising action last week, and all of you say, oh, it's to build things up. It's to build up the problem, and bam, something's going to happen in the climax. So what is the climax and what is the function of the climax? Okay, so what I'm seeing, I'm going to just read it out. Okay, so the students have shared their responses. Some of them say it's to talk about the problem and the highlight. Okay, the most interesting part is the most intense emotions. The climax excites the reader. The problem, the most exciting part of a composition. So very often you will hear that the climax is the most exciting part of a composition. Oh, just like saying the part where the story gets interesting. What does that mean? You mean it's only going to get interesting here? What about the introduction and the rising action? Not so interesting. Okay. So a lot of students will hear that the climax is the most exciting part of the composition. Let me just doodle on this cover page, okay? A lot of students say that the climax is the most exciting part. But does exciting mean that the emotion that's felt in the climax has to be excitement? No, right? Okay, so there are a few things I want you to think about, okay? Oops, okay. You can see, right, my typing. So the climax often looks like a few things or serve particular purposes. So I'm going to use some of your ideas first. Okay, some of you say the climax is the most interesting part. When I say the climax is the most interesting part, I'm careful to say that because it will be important for you to sustain interest throughout the composition. So it could be the most interesting, but make sure it is not the only interesting part, okay, in your composition. So yes, it is usually the most intense. Okay, it's usually the most intense in terms of it could be action. Let's say your composition theme is related to a brawl or a fight or an argument, and therefore the action in the climax will be the most intense, okay, where people are struggling and pulling each other's hair, things like that. So the action will be most intense. The feelings and the emotions are felt extremely intensely in the climax. And today we are going to do exactly that. We look at show not tell. So when you're expressing these deep emotions, don't just say he was very, very angry. He was very, very sad, right? How are you going to show that emotion? So feelings, and these feelings can be positive or negative, or a mix, or a mix. Okay? Actions, feelings are intense. Okay, so this is something that I see and I agree. Interesting. The part that is how the character deals with the problem. Yes, possible. Now, in the climax, our character is not a passive participant, right? Because of the problem that has been building up. In the climax, very often, if there is a problem, the problem explodes, usually. So this is the most straightforward way of telling you. The problem builds up, and in the climax, the problem explodes, which means that the main character has to do something to overcome or solve it. So our main character, having uh reacted or acted in certain ways in the earlier parts of the composition, now has no choice but to deal with it. You see, if your character doesn't deal with the problem, you have no composition, right? Right? If there is, if he saw a robbery and he just simply walks away, you have no more composition, right? That's the end. That's the end of the story. So we must make sure our character does not just walk away. Our character has to deal with the problem. Okay, so you're right to say that yes, the character has to deal with the problem over here. His head was as red as a tomato. Is that your version of show not tell? Hi Claire. Is that your version of show not tell? His head was as red as a tomato. Okay, later on we'll talk about the use of some cliche similes, okay? Another thing I want you to note is that, you know, when you look at the story mountain, the climax is at the tippy top, right? The peak. What comes right after the peak? It starts going downwards. Now, the peak is also what we often call the turning point in the story. That means what happens after changes. Okay? So let's say your character is a very lazy person and something happened in the climax. He has no choice but to change. And right after that, he would have transformed. Okay, the degree of transformation depends on the type of story a character you have, but there's usually a change. Your character cannot remain the same person, or the situation cannot remain the same throughout, or else you don't really have the narrative arc, right? So the turning point, the climax is the turning point. After this, people could change, the situation could change for the better or worse, depending on what kind of story you're writing. Okay, is it the plot twist? It is not the plot twist. It's not the plot twist, huh? Don't mix this up with a plot twist. A plot twist can happen anytime. Okay? So a plot twist is when your readers all expect things to go this way and then you surprise them by giving them something else. That's a plot twist. Now, since somebody spoke about a plot twist, I want to stress again that a plot twist is not necessary and a plot twist does not guarantee better marks. In fact, if you don't use a plot twist correctly, you end up confusing your reader, which then lowers your content marks. It is really not worth it. Okay? It is not in the descriptor, right? Does the descriptor say, Ben introduces a plot twist? No. All you have to do is to make sure that it follows the narrative arc, okay, your story mountain. The beginning and ending are well written. Whatever is in between, interesting, sustains the reader's interest. Okay? Don't need to intentionally do a plot twist or cliffhanger and all that. It's not necessary. Is it really possible to get full marks? Of course. The highest mark is 36, right? So yes, it's possible to get 36. Okay, if you meet all the descriptors. Okay, so this is where a lot of action is taking place, etc. Yes. So now let's move on to this part. These are just reminders. Okay, so today we are going to focus on the climactic moment. But before that, we are going to do a quick warm up to just reinforce certain things that I've been telling you since session one. Okay, about planning, about analyzing a question. So let's take a look at the theme telling a lie. Before, as with all sessions, before we even dive into the pictures and the guiding questions, what are similar topics, PSLE topics, similar to telling a lie? Like if you plan a story about telling a lie, you can use some of the ideas for these other topics as well. Give me your ideas. Okay? Telling a lie. Telling a lie is very specific. It's a very specific action. Some values related to telling a lie. What are some relationships related to telling a lie? Okay, type it in the chat. So the moment you see telling a lie, it's dishonesty. So honesty, dishonesty, a dishonest act. Okay, yes. Integrity, yes. What else? Hiding the truth. Okay, some are very specific, but I'm going to just leave them here because you're on the right track, okay? Hiding the truth, a false accusation. A false accusation is actually not easy to write. Yeah. But usually it's not so specific. Okay, saying something untrue, telling a lie, yes. What about something broader? Broader. Where do people tell lies? To whom do they lie to? You know, right? So, for a broader theme like friendship, can there be lies and betrayal involved? Yes, correct. In a topic like friendship, there could be lies and betrayal. Okay, some of you are very familiar with this story plot. A white lie, lying to an enemy, saying something untrue, revealing the truth. Okay, so take these down as notes. So just remind yourself that when we talk about telling a lie, it doesn't just involve the lie. Of course, the lie is important, but why does this person want to tell the lie? Was it easy for this person to tell the lie? What's the consequence of this person telling the lie? Does the person regret it? So revolving around telling a lie, there are many things that are happening. Okay, whether it's character development or it could be the setting that makes it very tempting to tell the lie. It could be. Okay, so these are some topics. Hiding the truth, yeah. Now let's take a look at the topics. Telling a lie, yes. What are the guiding questions? What was the lie? It's very important. But you'll be surprised. I've seen students written a composition about being dishonest or telling a lie. But after reading the whole composition, I'm not sure what the lie is. And this is possible if the student starts focusing too much on writing about some sort of dilemma and forgot to tell the reader what's the lie that the character eventually told. So you have to plan. If you don't plan, you'll start to use techniques or write things that come to your mind as and when. Okay? So don't take this for granted. Telling a lie is very straightforward, right, teacher? Obviously, I will talk about what the lie is. Not necessarily. Some people forget, okay? So what was the lie and why did this person tell the lie? Because in general, let me ask all of you, in general, would you prefer to tell lies? In general, would you prefer to tell lies? Is that what you associate yourself with? Dishonesty? Is that what the school teaches you? No, right? Most people, unless you're a con man and your job is to lie, or you're a scammer and your job is to lie, most people want to be honest. Am I right? Is your character an honest person to begin with? Something to think about. Most people want to be honest, correct? So why did the character lie? What motivated character to speak, to be untruthful? If you are an honest person, you have good values and you have integrity, will make you tell a lie. It must be something quite important, correct? Like if I don't tell a lie, something terrible is going to happen. So when you are planning, these are some things to consider. You need to think about your character. Did he or she um is he or she usually an honest person? Something for you to think about, right? Characterization. Is he or she usually an honest person? So if you say yes, you will have a certain storyline. If you say no, you'll have a certain storyline, right? If you say no, that means this person is very good at telling lies and he has no problems with telling lies, right? It's a very different character. Okay, so first question, is he or she an honest person? Another question, was it, I'm giving you additional pointers, okay? Was it easy for he or she to tell the lie? If you say no, then perhaps there was a moral dilemma involved. And today, this is something we are going to look at as well. Correct? Say, no, I'm an honest person. It's not easy for me to lie. I feel guilty, but I had to. That maybe there was a moral dilemma involved. Okay? If you say, yes, it's easy for this person to tell a lie, again, this is related to the characterization. What did this person do to scheme and to plan and to harm? That's a very different kind of character. Okay, but today we're going to look at moral dilemmas. So assume that it wasn't easy for your character to tell a lie. Another thing I want to think about. What did he or she do to ensure that, okay, maybe not ensure, let me give it a bit of, to try, I think this is a better way. What did he or she do to ensure that no one would know, that no one would find out about the truth? Okay, I'm asking this question because as you're thinking about your plot, you're not just thinking what your character did, right? We want to introduce tension. We want to introduce development and action. You can't just say, okay, I'm going to tell a lie. And then you go to someone and you tell the lie, finish 3 sentences. No, right? So if I say, okay, I really don't want to tell the lie, I have no choice. I have to do it. And I hope no one finds out. So what exactly did your character do to make sure that it could be how he or she covered his or her tracks? Okay? Or to be as discreet as possible. Okay, so what did he or she do? What was the effort that went into telling a lie? You have to consider these, then you can develop your characters and the story. Okay? Because things don't happen out of nowhere. Okay? Discreet means to not let people know. They don't know what you revealed to this particular person. Okay? And of course, was the truth uncovered? This is a decision you have to make. So students will ask me, teacher, must the truth be revealed? Well, the composition is about telling a lie. The composition is not about revealing the truth. As long as your character has told a lie and you've developed all these things, whether the truth is uncovered or not, it's up to you. It can be uncovered, or it could remain a secret that will continue to gnaw on the conscience of the character forever. Okay? This is not the topic. The topic is telling a lie. It's up to you. Was the truth uncovered? And whether the truth is uncovered or not, someone will have to deal with some sort of consequence. Don't you agree? If you told a lie and no one uncovered the truth, there's a consequence. The consequences of telling the lie. If no one knows the truth, it could be guilt. Okay? Something you have to carry with you, a burden you have to carry with you. You cannot live with yourself. Okay? Or it could be some form of punishment. Correct? And of course, you're very familiar with the punishment kind of storyline. Discipline master finds out, parents are called, you get suspended, your points, you get 0 marks for the exams. So you are familiar with the punishment storyline. Okay? Or no one trusts you anymore. Now everyone just wants to stay away from you. Yes, that's possible. Punishments, there are many kinds. Punishment could be deduction of marks, but punishment can also be social. No one wants to be your friend anymore. That's also a punishment. Okay? So these are some questions you can consider for this kind of story when it comes to telling the truth or telling a lie. Okay, I'm going to just stay here for 30 seconds. There are 3 pictures given, a key and objects. There are 2 objects here, the key and the laptop, but they are not, this laptop is just not a normal laptop, it's broken. Okay, so we have a key, a broken laptop, and the second picture is not an object. The second picture is a scenario that includes human beings, right? And they are behaving, they're gesturing in a certain way that requires you to infer what's happening. Can I scroll up a bit? Okay, let me just, oh, this a bit too small. Okay, let me do this. Expand it a little bit. Okay, now you can see. Okay? All right. Let me wait for another 10 seconds. So the key, the laptop, and the picture in the middle. Just give me a number. Number 1, key is number 1. This is number 2, and laptop is number 3. Which one are you inclined to select if this comes out in a test or an exam? Which one do you think is the most straightforward for you? You already have a storyline and you know it will work. You can answer all these questions that I've written here with this picture. A lot of threes. A lot of threes. Each and what do you mean for pick 2? Ridicule. It could be ridiculing, it could be bullying. Yeah. Okay, it could be ridiculing, teasing. Yes, teasing is a form of bullying as well, right? If you keep doing it to cause harm. Okay. Number 3, a lot of takers. Can the lie be like someone lied and blamed someone else and someone else got the consequences? Yes. Katika asked, since somebody asked, right? She said, can the lie be like someone lied and made someone else the scapegoat? That's what you meant, right? Someone else became the scapegoat. Yes. Someone else can suffer because of your lies. Then the next question for you to consider is, what's the relationship between the liar and the person suffering the consequence? Do they actually have a close relationship? Is the relationship forever ruined? Okay, something for you to consider. Because if these 2 people have no relationship, they're absolute strangers, very little consequences, right? Like, I'm just going to move on with my life. So when you plan your character, make sure that things don't just happen and end. Okay? There must be some motivation and consequence. Did a friend find out? I don't know. Did a friend find out? They could or they might not. Okay? A lot of number three. Let's take a look. Telling a lie. Okay, I'm just going to give this to you quickly because I think all of you know what telling a lie means. Okay, telling a lie means telling an untruth. Okay, to purposely deceive others. So if you don't know you're lying, you're not lying. If you don't know, say, I didn't know. Then it's a misunderstanding. It's not a lie. Okay, so there's something I want you to write here with three crosses. Okay, this topic is not about an accidental lie. No, no, wrong. Okay, don't talk about an accidental lie. Don't talk about uh a misunderstanding. No, no, this is not the topic. Do not. Nothing is accidental. Make sure the character. And I tell you why. Your character needs to know exactly what he or she is doing. Because then you'll have intention, action, consequences. Because if your character is just very blur, huh? I didn't know it. And then just starts something. Can we blame someone like that? We can only say you are not very aware. The end. So an accidental lie and a misunderstanding cannot give you the plot you need to develop. Okay? We need a character who knows. Then we can go into their minds, we can understand the motivations, etc. Okay? So make sure it's this, huh? Mm, okay. No questions about what it is not. Okay, it is not an accident or a misunderstanding. Okay? What was the lie? Why did someone tell? I've gone through these just now, so I'm not going to belabor. Let's take a look at the first picture. Give me your ideas, okay? Key. How can a key be related to a lie? How can it be related to a lie so that you have a storyline? It cannot be simply, oh, I found a pair of keys and I told my friend it's mine. No, there's no story. Losing your house keys and then what's the problem with losing your house keys? How is this related to the lie? You lost your keys, you lost your keys and you did and you lied that you kept the key well. Maybe. Okay, so you don't want to get a scolding. So you're like, oh yeah, I still have my keys. But actually, I don't know where they are. Okay, possible. Someone said, you cannot enter the house. You cannot enter the house. How is that related to a lie? Breaking and entering, how is that related to a lie? Excuse me? Please make sure you're giving me ideas related to lying. Lying. Where is the lie? Oh, leaving the key in a keyhole and leaving a key in a keyhole and not telling someone. Okay. If you are telling a lie, like to the teacher about your keys, you mean the keys belong to like what, the science lab or something? What? Give me something clearer. Okay. So you have gotten, for some reason, you've gotten a pair of keys and you've used it to gain access to a place that you're not supposed to enter, and you didn't, and when you found out, you didn't tell the truth, or you insisted that someone else did it. Okay? You lied that you never stole the keys from a teacher just so you lied that you didn't steal. stolen keys? Possible. Okay, you stole keys, you did not admit it. And what happened as a consequence? When you unlocked the door or the padlock, what did you have to deal with? Okay. Why would someone have to lie about it? Because they don't want to get punished, right? To escape punishment. Okay. But let me ask you, how could the truth be revealed for such a storyline? Oops. Oops. How could the truth be revealed? Oh, CCTV, it's everywhere in your school or in the void deck, right? CCTV. Or sometimes some people have CCTVs outside, just outside their homes. Okay. So CCTV, possible. Okay. Or you were caught red-handed because you tried to unlock it, not just once, you were caught red-handed. You were already being investigated, but you didn't know. Okay. So what kind of punishment could there be? Severe punishment. The police might be involved. Okay. Or if it's school property, the discipline master might be involved. The parents were called in. Now, I want, for those of you who look at this picture and say, oh, I want to talk about having access to keys I'm not supposed to have to and lying about it and then getting punished. I want you to remember that you should be writing from the perspective of someone around your age. Please don't be like a 30-year-old man who is a seasoned robber. Okay, no. Be you, a child. Okay, alarm system. Somebody said alarm system. Okay. Security. Security system, the alarm. Yes. Okay. Accidentally admitted. Possible. But usually let's not make things so accidental in a composition. Let's make things a lot more intentional. Okay. What about picture two? Picture two, lying. About lying. Who is the boy on the floor being targeted by the rest? What could be happening here? Some of you mentioned earlier on to me already. Teasing, bullying. What else? Teasing, bullying, ridiculing. Okay. What else? That's about it, right? I mean, when we give you a picture, when you see a picture in the examination paper, the goal of the setter is not for you to maximize your creative juices to analyze this picture in the most special way. That is not the intention. Okay? Not the intention. The intention is for students to look at a picture and very quickly be able to recognize it and make the most direct inference. Okay? So no need for you to try to have a very interesting interpretation. No, I think I mentioned this last week. He was getting bullied. He doesn't want anyone else to know about bullying. Yes. Why was he targeted? It could be a new student. He could be had no friends to support him or to speak up for him. Okay. He's always alone. So people who are always alone are easily targeted by bullies because they know that this person has no one to tell this to. Okay? What kind of lie could be told? Someone wrote, refused to tell anyone about the bullying. So maybe he was crying at home in school, and when someone asked, he just said, "Oh, it's nothing much," and it got worse. Perhaps, okay, he might have been embarrassed Yes. A lot of guilt. So victims of bullying often feel a lot of guilt. Okay. So they might then not want to embarrass themselves. Yes. They might be threatened. Okay. The bullies might say, if you dare to tell anybody, I'm going to blah blah blah. Okay. So maybe he was threatened. Yes. Okay. There could be reasons why he wanted to lie. Okay, this is possible. Now I want us to move away. So the bullying storyline, all of you are very familiar with. Okay. I want all of you to take a look at this setting again. Okay, this setting again. Let's say this boy, these are lockers, right? Some of your schools do have them, some of you don't. Based on our first interpretation, this boy is the victim, okay, of some bullying or something bad, and he does not want to tell anybody about it, or he told lies about it, but it just got worse. About if this boy is actually someone who did something wrong and the rest are actually scolding him, or they caught him doing something wrong. Okay, I'm going to use another ink, okay, another color to type the other set of ideas. Oops, give me a moment. Okay, so you can think, what could it be if now I have to, hmm? Okay, let me change the color. Strange, I cannot. Hmm? Okay, I'll just type it down here, okay? So what is a possibility? If you want to join picture one and two, actually you can. Because you need keys to open lockers, right? Unless it's a code. Jeannie says stealing from someone's locker. Yes. Telling a lie. I said, no, no, I didn't, okay? So perhaps lurking around the lockers, lurking around, okay? Taken the key already, stolen a key already, okay? And then lurking around, stealing from the locker, okay? Hot red-handed and denying it. No, I didn't. Someone passed me this key. He allowed me to look through. Okay, so lying, okay? Uncovering the lie. So usually if it's in schools, an adult has to come into the picture, right? It could be a discipline master, someone investigating the situation because theft is involved. And then lesson learned or how it ended. Okay? Plus the consequences. So this is another possibility. If we are not looking at a bullying storyline, this could be another possibility because of the setting. There's a background, right? Because of the setting. So lockers possible, okay? Hmm. All right. Before I move on to the next picture, if we are looking at stealing and so on, or someone who is lying about stealing, I think you're familiar with this storyline as well, right? Everyone thought that he was the culprit, but because of someone's lie, he turned out to be innocent. That's also possible. Okay, when they did a bag search, it was found in someone else's bag. So it could also be that someone had stolen and then he became the scapegoat. It could be that as well. Okay, so I'm just sharing some ideas with you. Uh, you may be able to apply them when there is a slight shift in the topic. And the last one, a lot of you pick this. Tell me then how to link this to a lie. How to link this to a lie? What could have caused the damage? Smashed screen. A smashed screen. It's not easy to spoil a laptop, by the way. Quite easy. Even when you drop your handphone, it takes quite a number of drops to break the screen. A laptop, it's not so easy to smash, to cause this to a laptop, okay? It's not easy. You really need to use something like a hammer or a really heavy object to cause this kind of damage. So what could have caused the damage? Not someone, not simply dropping it. I don't think the damage would be so severe. Maybe a crack, but not like that. Okay? There must be some sort of hard impact. There must be some sort of hard impact. Okay? It could be smashed against the edge of a table, the wall, a hard object. Okay? It must be smashed against something. Or smashed by something. Okay? So, okay? So this is, or a really, really hard punch. But I would think that you will really hurt yourself if you try to cause this kind of damage to a laptop. Your knuckles will really hurt. It is not easy. Okay? What kind of lie could be told regarding this? First, I want you to maybe we think about the character first, okay? Who will cause a damage to a laptop like that? Could it be a sibling? Is it a friend? Because a stranger won't do that to your laptop, right? A sibling, a friend. And if it's a sibling or a friend, and they've done this to you, how can they lie? Oh, it's not me. I didn't. Someone else did it. Okay? So to deny, to act innocent, no, I didn't. I didn't. It's not me. It just fell. When I came into the room, it was already like that. Okay? So you deny, you act innocent, or you blame it on someone else or a younger sibling. He did it. Okay? And younger sibling cried because he or she didn't. Okay? Why would someone tell a lie like that? To escape punishment, of course. To escape punishment, to escape compensation. If this took place in a shop, CCTV, employees, okay, they would have seen it and they would make you pay or your parents pay. And you'll be in trouble, right? Okay? So escape punishment or compensation. How how would the person find out the truth? If you're in a shop, there are eyewitnesses. If not, if you blame the younger sibling, the younger sibling is now crying and bawling, I didn't do it, I didn't do it, then you feel guilt. Okay? So maybe you owned up. Another thing I want to consider is this, intentional or not. Because in the chat, I see some of you say, oh, you're angry with your sibling, so you decided to get back at him or her. Or you decided to get back at a friend by destroying his or her prized laptop. It's possible. So is it an intentional act or not? Because whether it's intentional or not, you can lie about it, right? Because you want to make sure you don't get into trouble. Okay? Blame it on your dog. Blame it on your pet. Somebody said, blame it on your pets. Okay? So a lot of you wrote this. There are few kinds of storylines. There are few kinds of settings for you to consider. Is it home, school, shop? Okay? You're not writing a composition today, but we are going to just have a general plot. So if you're writing a composition like that, how are you going to plot it on a story mountain? Okay? So very, very quickly, do this with me. Remember from lesson 1, we said we plan from the climax. It is the turning point. It is where it's most intense, where the topic is fully fleshed out. Right? If you have been building up, then here would be the ultimate lie or the revelation. So in the climax for this particular composition, in the climax, I'm just going to type it out like that, right? In the climax, what should happen in a composition about telling a lie. In the climax, it is where your character tells the lie. Okay? Or somewhere in the rising action, towards the end, your character has already told the lie, and in the climax, he or she has to try to prove his or her. What's happening? Tries to prove innocence. Okay? So let's say the lie was at the end of the rising action. And now it's very problematic. I already told my lie and no one believes me. Everyone's pointing at me. I didn't do it. So in the climax, I'm going to try to prove my innocence. Okay, I didn't do it. Someone else did. And these are really intense moments, right? When every finger is pointing at you, like in picture two, but you really didn't do it. So something like that could happen in the climax. Remember, some of you told me that in the climax, you want to try to solve the problem. Here you go. Okay? Is this also where the evidence is presented? Maybe. So the authorities come in and they present the evidence, and you have no choice but to admit it. It could also happen here, maybe towards the end of the climax. Okay? So this is where things are really intense. Now, in the rising action of the story, of course, we are looking at building up. We are looking at the, if there is any sort of moral dilemma, it can happen in the rising action, moving very close into the climax. Okay? So later on, we are going to look at some climactic moments where you'll see moral dilemma. So it is possible. Moral dilemma can go into the climax as well. So moral dilemma, um, the struggles, okay? Struggling to decide. And in the introduction is where you state the situation, like what's happening that threw you into this situation where you have to perhaps tell a lie. Okay? What's the goal? Is your goal to protect someone's reputation? Is your goal to gain more money? Is your goal to uncover something? And in the process, you got into trouble. So, what's the situation? What's the goal? What's the moral dilemma you're struggling to decide? Your plan. If you're telling a lie, you need to have a plan. Whom should I say what to? Okay? So, your plan and all that. This will be in the rising action. Now, the falling action is where the truth is revealed. And this is usually at the top of the falling action, okay? Somewhere in the climax, the end of the climax, truth is revealed, perhaps, and then this is where you get your consequences. The consequences. It could be emotional, it could be real, like having to pay, having to speak publicly in front of the whole school to apologize, consequences. Okay, and lastly, your reflection, your lesson learned, and and this is what I told my students in class today as well. Please don't just say, I learned that I will never tell a lie again. Because everyone is going to write that. And what makes this a better composition? Always, always write about something that's directly linked to the composition, of course. And I want you to consider this. In your reflection and conclusion in this particular composition, ask yourself, answer a few questions and include them in the paragraph, okay? Why is it important to tell the truth? Why is it important or why is it worth it? to tell the truth. What's the problem? What's the problem with lying? So always go back to thinking about the value, okay? The value. In a story about honesty, integrity, kindness, showing consideration, all these are related to values, right? So in your conclusion, think about what does it really mean to be kind? Or if it's friendship, what does it mean to be a really good friend? Did I exhibit it in my composition, in my experience? Okay. Honesty is the best policy. Can you use a wise saying like that? Yes. Yes, you can. Honesty is the best policy, but whenever you use wise sayings, okay, for example, I'm going to type here. You can write this in the intro or conclusion. This quote will work. Honest, honesty is the best policy. Every time you introduce a wise saying, please don't leave it hanging there, assuming that the reader knows what to do with it. Every time you have a wise saying or a quote, remember to relate it to your experience or the composition. Do not do this. Do not say, honesty is the best policy. I finally learned how important it is to be honest. I will never tell a lie again. Full stop. That's not a good conclusion. Firstly, how is honesty is the best policy related to your compo? Secondly, it's a very generic conclusion. Everyone is going to write that. I don't know what's in your composition. So honesty is the best policy. I realized that in trying to protect my friend, I had betrayed my conscience. I realized that telling the truth helped my friend to learn to be honest so that he can live with a clear conscience. Though we may have to suffer some consequences for our mistakes, at least we don't have to live in guilt, or we don't have to live with our conscience, or without having to be tortured by our conscience. So always expand the quote. What does it mean to you? Why do you say so? Okay? So don't just throw a quote at the reader and say, nah, figure it out on your own. No, okay? Don't do that. All right. So today, when you look at these techniques and the climaxes later on, you will see that they are related to telling a lie. So those are mini models for you, okay? Those are mini models for you. Let's take a look at some of these techniques, okay? Let's take a look at some of these techniques. And I'm going to type out some things. Take down notes, okay? So with this title, the title of this section, Gripping Climax. It's gripping, What's gripping? What is gripping? What is a gripping climax? When a part of the story grips, you say it's a very it's gripping. This particular part of the story is gripping. Yes, it hooks you. And it doesn't just hook and let go, right? It keeps you hooked. It keeps, instead of you, I say the reader. It keeps the reader hooked, which means there is some form of suspense. Like, that's why just now I said the truth will be revealed somewhere at the end of the climax. Because in the whole climax, we're just trying to fight the lie or the truth, which will win. And we don't know. So which will win? There's suspense, right? And only towards the end of the climax or the start of the falling action do you release the suspense and you go, here's the truth. Okay? So a gripping climax involves some form of suspense. There definitely will be tension, which is very, again, typical of a climactic moment. There is tension because people are trying to prove that they are right, that their truth is the truth. Okay. So there's suspense, there's tension. Now, if you think of the last movie you watched, could be a Marvel movie, Avengers, or something action-packed. Action-packed. When you think about that movie I've watched, can you remember the scene? Can you remember the scene? Okay, now if you can recall the scene, besides what you see on the screen, what do you hear? What do you hear? Every movie has soundtracks, right? Every soundtrack creates a particular mood and atmosphere. So in movies, we will hear music. Sometimes very fast paced. Let's say a chasing scene. The music is very fast paced, very exciting, right? But we cannot hear all these when we're writing. So in your description, when the tension or drama reaches its higher point, where the action and emotional intensity and conflict are at their peak, we want to make sure that we use these techniques, okay, to help our readers be in that moment, like as if they're really there. They can hear, they can feel, they can see, they can sense the tension in the room, okay? So emotional intensity, it's the most intense, like I mentioned just now, okay, most intense. So what are some techniques related to what are some techniques that could help you do this, grip your readers, okay? Should not tell, and you know this very well, right? You know, but do you use? That's my question. If you have your latest composition with you, just pick any composition, okay? If now you're at your study table and you have your English file or your school paper, some of you just did your WA, right? You got back your mark scripts. Take a look at your latest composition. Parents can also do that, right? Take a look at your latest composition. Was there more showing or more telling? Okay. Do you students use phrases like he was nervous, he was scared, he was overjoyed? Say, teacher, I didn't use happy, I used overjoyed. I know, but it is still telling, right? So the next question parents will ask is this, or students will ask is this: must I then just show throughout my composition? Every sentence is showing, showing, showing? No. If you do that, there'll be reader's fatigue. The person reading your story will be very tired because showing requires vivid imagination. It requires our brain to form an image. And every time we do that, it requires energy, brain energy. So we can't do this for every single sentence. Be tired. When do we use show not tell? In moments where that character's emotion is very important for the story. Do you all hear me? Okay, let me give you an example. Let's say someone told a lie and he was very nervous. Okay, and let's say at the start of the story, he was just in school, talking to his friends happily. The topic is telling a lie. So there are many emotions throughout the story. There'll be some happiness, dilemma, nervousness, guilt. If any of these emotions are important to the topic, sure. Okay? Key emotions related to the topic, sure. So nervousness, yes. Fear, yes. Guilt, yes. Can show. Sure. But if it's a secondary character who made a remark, you can do it in a more straightforward way. Okay? So pace your readers. Sometimes after doing a whole two, three sentences of showing, just do tell and then show again. Okay, not show throughout. Nervousness. So instead of just saying he was nervous, he was outside the principal's office and he was nervous, you can say John kept pacing to and fro along the corridor. Every time he sat down for a while, he would fidget and his eyes would dart around like that. And you realize the word nervous does not appear at all because it has been shown. Okay? We start with climax and then beginning and rising action. Okay, you're talking about flashback, Kartika. I'll talk about that later. Okay? Yeah, Claire. Yeah, that's vivid. It's fine. His face lit up as he jumped in joy. So when you are in maybe primary, and your teachers teach you phrases like he jumped up and down in joy. It's a bit of a mix. That's a bit of a show. You see the behavior, but you also see the word joy, right? Can you use that? Yes, of course you can use that in your composition. The key for telling you about this technique, and all your teachers tell you this, is because very often when you just keep telling, there's no development of key emotions. And for a composition like telling a lie, the emotions are so important. Okay? So show, and as you're showing, what are you doing? You're also showcasing your wide vocabulary, which is a descriptor under language. You are showing wide vocabulary, variation in sentence structures. So while John was nervous, it's grammatically perfect. It does not give you the opportunity to showcase your wide variety of vocab and varied sentence structure. Okay? Yes. John was pacing while biting his nails. Yes, Gwendolyn. So he was pacing to and fro and biting his nails. Yes, that's showing. Because it's like when you watch a movie, right? The characters don't look at the camera and say, I'm nervous now. And then they behave in a nervous way. They just behave and you just know, right? So imagine watching a movie, characters don't turn to you and tell you how they feel, but you know because they're showing it. Okay, so that's right. Biting the nails, nail biting. Another technique is dialogue. Later on, you'll see some examples, right? We talked about this in introduction as well. Okay, so let's say you are using dialogue. Okay, somebody give me a dialogue about lying. You liar! Today I did punctuation in my class, punctuating dialogue. Because students always make a mistake. Make sure you know how to punctuate your dialogue. You liar! So instead of saying hi, bye, your dialogue must contain information related to the theme. Like here, you liar! Return us the stolen items, or else we will call the police. Jaden, is there any Jaden here? Shouted at the top of his lungs. And then if you want to add an action, pointing accusingly at Tom or something like that. Okay? So it must be super important to the plot. Again, related to the theme. Okay? So interior monologue, dialogues. I let me put this higher. Okay, here. Okay? Dialogue. So this dialogue must move the plot. So after someone says something like that, return it to us or we'll call the police. This will move the plot because now Tom has to decide what he will do. Is he going to return it or continue lying? So this accusation or this warning moves the plot. It also gives us insights to the characters' thoughts, feelings, reaction. Obviously, Jaden is angry. Obviously, Jaden wants his things returned. Okay, he's feeling indignant. It can also be used to depict the conflict or build up tension. Yeah. So would Tom answer back or would he oblige? Okay, would he return whatever he has stolen? Okay? So dialogue like that. Interior monologue. These are basically your thoughts and feelings. So if you're writing from first person's perspective, bring the readers into your mind. What exactly are you thinking? Okay, so I'm just going to put here first person's point of view. Okay? So if you are the thief, what's going through your mind? What do you want to steal? What do you want to steal? Is it last week we talked about conflict, right? So if it's you against your circumstances because of finances, maybe you had to steal. I don't know. Okay? Yeah, Claire. What? I did not do anything. Why are you blaming me? Okay. Okay, so there are people who could do that. Yes, that's fine. Okay. And very often, I think students use this, but don't ask too many questions like that. Okay. For example, what had I done? If you don't use quotation marks, please use the correct tense. What had I done? If you are the narrator, you can just say, what had I done? What had I done? Okay. Or if you're using quotation marks, you can say, what have I done? I wondered, confused about the accusation. Okay. So if you are using quotation marks, use the present tense. You learned it in S&T, right? But when you do reported, or your story is already being told in that tense, your story is being told in past tense, and you're just talking to the readers directly. What had I done? Then you don't need quotation marks. Okay? If you want to, you can. No issue. Just make sure you punctuate it correctly. Last one is slow motion. Okay, so some students will ask, teacher, what's the difference between show, not tell, and slow motion? Slow motion definitely uses show, not tell. How can you do slow mo without showing? You have to show, right? So when you think about slow motion, it usually involves something that's happening quickly. Since it is important to the topic and picture, you want to describe it vividly. So if now the story is about related to a nasty incident, okay? Someone got violent physically. Slapped. A slapped B. Now in real life, how long does a slap take? Yeah, finish. 1 second. And you simply write in your climax, John slapped Tom. Ouch! Tom yelled. Is it enough? It's an important part of your composition. It's in the climax. I need to see and feel the intense strength that went into that slap. So we have to slow down. And when you see here a frame by frame, so now if I say, okay, do how you normally slap something, you go this way. It's quite fast, right? But if I say now I want you to do it frame by frame, so you go, right? It's very slow. It's very slow. It's going to take 10 seconds for a full slap. So things are happening frame by frame. If I say now, you are you are trying to put jam on toast. You know, I applied jam on my toast. Finish like that. But if now you want to go into slow mo, you'll first have to pick up the butter knife, it glimmering under, I don't know, your fluorescent lamp or your sunlight, depending on where you are. And then and you need to then describe how you scoop or dig it into the jar of jam. Okay? So it's every single step you are describing, but no one is writing about jam on toast. I'm just giving you an example. Okay? So frame by frame, if you are stealing something, how exactly are you moving your arms? How are you moving your eyes to check that no one is seeing? Okay? Frame by frame. So picture three, being smashed, right? If you're holding a hammer or if you're holding the laptop and smashing it on the corner of a table, you have to describe it from the moment you pick it up to lifting it over your head. And at the same time, you also want to describe your facial expression and how you slammed it down and which part of the table did you slam it on and then what sound did you hear. And at that moment, you realize that, at that moment, you regretted your action because you had been impulsive. Okay? So slow-mo. Later on, we'll see some examples. Claire says, John had stretched out his hand forcefully landing on Tom's cheek. It's still not slow enough. So you want to say stretch out, right? He stretched out, and when his hands forcefully is actually still telling. How forceful? Did he swing his body back first? Did he swing his body back first and using the strength of his whole body to land that slap? Okay, I'm not sure. So we want to show the impact. Okay, it's not wrong. It's grammatical, but we can make it slower. So now I'm going to pause. It's 8:12. I'm going to give all of you 5 to 7 minutes. Okay, 5 to 7 minutes. In 5 to 7 minutes. In this 5 to 7 minutes, if you need to go for a quick toilet break, go. If you're not going for a toilet break, take a look at these three climaxes. Okay, take a look at these three climaxes. Read them and decide what technique they used. But not just that. I want you to highlight words and phrases which are related to those techniques. Okay, and I want you to think, why is this effective? So don't just read and go, okay, technique, okay? Ask yourself, why does this work? Do you write like that? Okay, so it's 8:13 now. I will go through these three climaxes at 8:20. 8:20. Okay, so you can go for your short break or take a look at these three climaxes. Sure, take a look at them then. Look at the paragraphing of the dialogue. Are your teachers still marking you for paragraphing errors? In March, okay? One speaker, one paragraph. Hmm. Scroll down. Oh, you don't have the paper, is it? Sure. Hmm. Shubayu Banerjee. Should I call you Shubayu or should I call you Banerjee? Let me know. You said, in my school, Shubayu. Okay, Shubayu says, in my school, we recently learned about exploding the moment, similar to the slow motion. Yeah. Requires the five senses exactly. There are so many imagery you can associate with this, exploding the moment. I'm just I'm just chatting and sharing, okay? It's okay if you're still having your break. You know, when you watch documentaries and you see a volcanic eruption, and they actually use slow motion, right? They slow down the reel. So you actually see you'll see the lava being spewed out, right? Yeah. So everything is happening in slow-mo. If you watch documentaries, you'll see a lot of it because they'll always do a slow-mo for when it comes to animals, okay? Animal behaviors or natural occurrences. Yeah. If you watch anime or you watch certain comedies, they like to use slow-mo as well. Okay, especially when the characters, for example, the slapstick one, right? The character slips on a banana and falls. Sometimes they do a slow-mo for that. So you can see every single frame from slipping on the banana to the person's expression changing and flailing his arms, and finally ends with his bum on the floor. And then the audience will laugh at his misfortune. Okay, so that's very often in slapstick humor kind of comedy. Recently, we use an AI to help explode. Yes, I know some of your schools are making good use of AI. So learn, and use it to benefit your revision, not for it to write for you. Because if it writes for you, then it will have to take PSLE, not you, right? If AI writes for you, then you will not develop a skill. So you have to write. You have to write. If AI shows you an example, like what your schools are showing you, AI shows you an example. Don't just say, oh, okay, good example. No. Now you do another version of it. So whatever you do, whether it's using model compo books, whether it's using AI, whatever assistance you're getting, remember they are just assisting you. You are the boss. You are the boss. You are the leader. You're in charge. Okay, you have to do the learning. You can learn from these, but you must do the writing. Okay, you cannot just read. 8:17, another 3 minutes. What does shackle mean? The shackle. Shackle is like the chains. Not the chains. The part where it's locked. The part where it's locked. Okay, where the connection is. What is this? Let me see. Yeah. So you know when the shackle gets unlocked, then the lock is unlocked. Okay. So when the shackle is released, then it's unlocked. But now the shackle is still in the lock, so it's still locked. The meanings of these words are right here. Okay, Kartika, I can show it to you. Extricate is to remove, lunged, converge, vehemently. Lunged is used for a sudden movement forward. Okay, a sudden movement forward is lunged. Yeah, Claire is okay. You can type. Nothing too severely wrong or anything. It's fine. Use this as a practice. It's okay. I'm looking. Clambered. If you clamber, you are moving in a very clumsy way. Clumsy way. This chagrin. Okay, chagrin. You didn't know you need this paper. Are you able to download it? There is a link in the event. You receive emails from for this event, right? Okay, so there will be a folder there for you to download the document. Okay. Okay, so this is the shackle, what I meant. So the shackle is in the lock. When the shackle is released, it's unlocked. Okay, so in that text just now, it talks about the shackle remained steadfastly in its body. This is the body of the lock. It just remained stuck in there. Okay. Geriatric is very old. Recalcitrant is someone who keeps breaking the rules. Okay, so later on, you're going to see these words. Uh, I'm going to just go through them, and then if there's anything you still don't understand, I can explain it to you, or you can take a look at how they are being used, okay? So earlier on, some words like extricate is to move or remove or to free someone or something for a difficult situation. So we'll see how it's used later. A sidekick is, there's usually, for example, in stories about bullies, so usually there'll be this bully and then he will have his sidekicks. Or a superhero could also have sidekicks. Basically, the secondary heroes. Okay? Lunge is to move forward suddenly. Converge is to join. Okay, converging, moving towards each other. Vehemently is in a very vigorous, okay, in a very vigorous way, a lot of energy, okay, very forceful, very intense. Okay? Incriminating. Okay, incriminating here. Incriminating could be make someone appear guilty. But if I use it as an adjective, I say this is incriminating evidence. This is now an adjective. Okay, so if this is incriminating evidence, that means this evidence can actually prove if someone has committed a crime or not. Okay, so if it's used like that, it's an adjective. Flush is when your face is red. Just now somebody gave this suggestion as red as a tomato, right? As red as a tomato. So as red as a tomato, my face as red as a tomato is an overused simile. So when all children started learning similes, that's one of the similes they use, right? At your level, there are many ways to describe someone with a red face. So very often we use the word flushed. Flushed is already a red, pinkish red color. Okay? There is no green flush. There's only a reddish pinkish flush. Now, this flush that's appearing on the face, is it because of embarrassment? Is it because of anger? Is it because the weather is really hot? It depends. But they can all be described as a flush. You just have to extend it by saying it was she was, you can use flush with embarrassment or guilt. Okay? So you can just add an additional description to show why is it red. Okay? Bold-faced. A bold-faced lie. Collocation. A bold-faced lie. So very often say, you're telling a bold-faced lie. That means it's obvious it's a lie. You and I know it, but you look like it's the truth. The way you tell it's as if it's the truth. You have no remorse. Okay? A standoff, it's when two people are like, they are about to get into a fight, okay? And they're not going to give in. Culminate is everything builds up to this highest point. Muffled, it's not very clear. Chagrin, feeling upset, disappointed. Okay, shackle, steadfast, embedded, fixed, recalcitrant. This is very useful for defiant characters. They break one school rule, they do it again, they get punished, they do it again. Okay, you often see them in the discipline master's office. Recalcitrant. Okay, so maybe the person who told the lie, he has been doing it a few times already. Okay, strong is crowd, fraught with. Yes, okay, so don't spam in the chat. Respond with relevant information. Okay, right? So that I can see everyone's comments. Okay, let's take a look at Climax A, B, and C. I'm sure everyone is now 8:25, so you have gone to the toilet. are definitely back already, right? Let's take a look at climax A. Climax A. Firstly, paragraphing one speaker, one paragraph. Your teachers should not be marking for this anymore. I told my class today, when I mark their compositions now, and they are my students here as well. When I mark your compositions in March at this time, if you are taking the PSLE, right? I basic errors like paragraphing dialogue shouldn't appear anymore. Shouldn't appear anymore. Punctuating dialogue shouldn't appear anymore because these are things that there are rules you can learn. And once you learn them, you apply them, there shouldn't be errors anymore. Okay? So whatever your teacher tells you, directions. Okay? So that your teachers, and like I told my class, your teachers can focus on other things that will help you to push up your scores. Because if I keep marking for punctuation error, paragraphing error, and and these errors keep pulling your marks down, then we are stuck. So let's get rid of these errors that you can now work on. And other language errors like sentence structure, it will take a bit of time. You have to do your corrections, right? But your teachers want to help you do better. So do better in terms of language, in terms of content. So when I'm marking, I'm not just looking for like, oh, do you use the right tense and all that? I'm also looking at, and my students will know, yes, your sentence is grammatical, but it doesn't do anything. It has no impact, no effect. Then I'll suggest something. I'll suggest a link. So these things will help to enhance your composition, will help to push you to the next band. That's what the teachers want to do for you. Okay? So what you can do is to paragraph things properly, okay, and use the right punctuation. There's no way I'll be able to extricate myself from this situation, Kevin thought. I want to edit the punctuation here. Okay, allow me to do that. Where's my pen? Okay, allow me to do that. And you edit it as well. So that it is. I know we sometimes we have the single and double, but it's okay to use double as well, okay? Fine. And then over here. Okay. Kevin thought. He had been caught red-handed breaking into Jerome's locker and by Jerome's sidekicks, no less. Within seconds, Jack had lunged forward and shoved him to the ground. Dylan Hall also converged on him and were now staring daggers at him. There are a few things that are happening here. Can you, in the next 30 seconds, mark out what exactly do you see in this paragraph? Is it an action? Is it an expression? Is it simile? What is it? In the next 30 seconds, do that, okay? In the next 30 seconds, highlight and label. Okay? Okay, now you tell me. There's no way to extricate. This is a thought. We know. Okay, it's a thought. He had been caught red-handed breaking. So this is something that happened to him, not something he did, right? Within seconds. So you see there are a few characters here. There is Kevin. I'm going to just label them. There is Kevin. There is Jerome's locker. And then there's Jack. And then there's Dylan and Paul. There's a whole gang of them. Okay. Who is this him? Who's this him? Who's this him? Excuse me? Hello, do some tracking, okay? This him is Kevin. He is the one that's in trouble. No way I'll be able to extricate. That means I am in trouble. Okay? So everyone, Jerome seems to be the boss or the gang leader, okay? And Kevin looked into his locker. So all his sidekicks, Jack, Dylan, and Paul, working for the boss, Jerome, are now surrounding him. So can you imagine the scene? Can you imagine what this looks like converging on him? Can you imagine it? Converging, that means they are walking closer to him. He is here. This is Kevin, okay? And then Dylan and Paul are walking towards him. They are going to corner him. He cannot escape. So you can imagine movement. All these involve show not tell. Okay? So there's dialogue, there's show not tell, and then there's also expression. Let me label this. Okay? Oops. There's expression, there's dialogue. Oh, this is actually inner thought. Inner monologue. Dialogue not yet. Inner monologue. Action, expression. Okay. Then we move on. I swear I wasn't stealing anything from Jerome. Kevin protested vehemently, dusting himself as he clambered to his feet. Locker, right? Locker. So maybe he was kneeling down or he was being cornered, he was cowering. So now he's trying to maybe he was on the floor, so he's dusting himself, okay, all the dust on the floor as he tried to stand up. So this is what I call or what I tell students, right? There is dialogue and there is dialogue tag plus an adverb to show the manner in which that was said plus an action. So last week we talked about using dialogue. We don't want a script. We want dialogue to be accompanied by actions and tone. So you see over here, this is exactly how it's done, okay? Dialogue, dialogue tag, action. Then why were you opening the door of his locker? Dylan barked, his eyes narrowing with sinister intent. Again, same thing. Dialogue, dialogue tag, action. Okay, and this action, if I want to be more specific, it's an expression, right? It's an expression. Okay. So later on, when we get to do a bit of practice, I want you to try this. Of course, you must punctuate correctly, but try this. Dialogue tag, adverb, action. Okay? I wasn't the one who unlocked it. The locker door was open, so I peeked in. That's all. You all saw me just as I was about to close it. Kevin muttered somewhat half-heartedly, trying to master his most innocent look. So muttered is our dialogue tag. This is our dialogue. And this is our action. Somewhat half-heartedly is actually, it functions like an adverb, the way it was being said, okay? The manner. So in your next composition, students, for our upper primary is coming up soon, okay? Try to do this for dialogue. Don't just he said, she said, he said, she said. Make sure that there are actions, okay? So techniques here, internal monologue, inner monologue, dialogue, show not tell, actions. There are also precise verbs, not just he said, she said. Precise verbs, precise text, actions, okay? And make sure you paragraph. How can I make this more obvious to all of you? Paragraph, okay? Paragraph. This person is Kevin. Then moving on to Dylan. Then moving on to Kevin, back to Kevin again. How many of such dialogues would you have in your composition? About one set like that. Not more than two, because it gets too much. Shubayu says, no, please, I promise I didn't steal your money. John pleaded, afraid, trying to shield himself with his hands. Okay, so pleaded, John pleaded, pleaded is dialogue tag, right? Shubayu. Afraid trying to show, there's a bit of grammatical issue there. You can say John pleaded, comma, trying to shield himself with his hands. You don't need the word afraid. You can infer he's afraid. He can't be happy. Am I right? Okay? Remove the word afraid. Don't tell. You're already showing. Don't need to tell. Okay. So this is a model. Now, the second one. Oh, there's no dialogue here. So what's happening? Tension hung in the air. Dramatic short sentence. Okay. So I'm just going to label it. Tension hung in the air. And it's hung. No, it's not. Some students will write tension was in the air. Tension was in the air a lot flatter in terms of description. So hung in the air means it's just there. It's not going anywhere. It's just suspended. Okay? So it's a lot more. Confronted. I want all of you to look at this sentence structure. I know I'm teaching you some writing techniques, but I'm also teaching you varying sentence structure. Look at this sentence, everybody. Look at this sentence structure. See, you're okay, teacher. What's wrong with this sentence structure? There's nothing wrong. You see, a lot of the sentences here, a lot of students will begin with I or my, right? Tension hung in the air. My face was flushed a deep scarlet red as I was confronted. I simply, he, I. You realize there'll be a lot of my, right? So this actually varies the sentence structure. So I'm going to label it, okay? And this is something examiners look at too. They are not going to count how did you vary your sentence, but when you read our model compositions or when you read a good model, you realize that wow, it's very smooth. It's very smooth and it's very interesting because there's variation in sentence structure. Only when you study it, then you realize, hey, actually there is. So how to create that effect in your reader is to do the same. You vary it. Okay, so we can begin our sentence like that. Confronted with, comma, my face was flushed a deep scarlet. Now take a look at this whole phrase. I want you to learn how to use the word flushed instead of my face was as red as a tomato. Okay, let's move on from that. See, it was flushed a deep scarlet. Scarlet means red. So if you don't use scarlet, was flushed a deep scarlet out of a mix of embarrassment and guilt. Learn how to spell embarrassment, embarrassment and guilt. So it's mixed. Okay. Now, besides flushed, what other words can we use instead of as red as a tomato? Flush is a color, but when we are angry or embarrassed, is and we think about our five senses, is it just sight? Is it just how red our face is? What is another phrase we can use to describe someone whose face is red or who is very embarrassed and guilty? Five senses. Flush, a deep scarlet, is sight because you see. There's another sense that you can tap on to show that the face is red. Sense, feeling. Exactly. Yes, you can say crimson red, no problem. When your face is red and you touch it, how does it feel? It's going to feel hot. So if you don't want to use flush or deep scarlet red, or you have already used it somewhere in a compo, you don't want to keep repeating the same word flush, 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 right? Burning with rage. If you are angry, you can say, my face was burning with rage. So you can use show, okay? To show anger, you can say face burning with rage. That's just an alternative. Okay, face was burning with rage. Some people start to use hyperbole. They say it was as if no, I swear smoke was coming out of my nostrils and ears. Okay, some people go into that hyperbolic sort of description. It's fine. Slightly comedic, humorous, okay, but this is okay. Simple, easy to spell, right? Face burning with rage is better than angry, right? This is showing also. Easy to spell, okay? I simply could not look my father in the eye. Full stop. He was glaring at me with such a laser-like intensity that my cheeks burned even redder. This is sense. Burning with rage, burned redder, fine. So you realize I didn't use the same word twice. Here I use scarlet, here I use red. Here I use flush, here I use burned. Here I use face, here I use cheeks. You have to vet your work like that. You have to get used to varying it. Okay? So this is what we call, oh, variation. Variation. I was his child, comma, and he knew instinctively that I had told him a bold-faced lie. You cannot lie to your parents. They actually know that you're lying. Despite that, linking phrase, I foolishly persisted in maintaining my innocence. Okay, maintaining my innocence is a collocation. Learn this. Could be useful in compre clause, okay? This is a collocation. This is a collocation. To maintain my innocence. It means I did not commit that crime. Okay? I was a it was a standoff that could only culminate in one way, my admission of guilt. That means no matter how my father and I, no matter what my father says, no matter how what I think, eventually I will have to admit it. Because my father knows I'm lying, I know I'm lying. There's no way out. Okay? What technique is used here? Actually, after all these highlighting and all that, you will know it is show not tell. Okay, it is show not tell. This is a very vivid paragraph, very well written, and there are not many very complex structures or words. Okay, he was glaring at me, laser-like intensity. Learn this, a laser-like intensity. I know a lot of you like to use staring daggers, right? Okay, now you have another phrase to learn, laser-like intensity. Okay, because everyone is now using staring daggers. Time to change things up. Okay, staring daggers was in front. Staring daggers was in front. Staring daggers was here. Right? Staring daggers. Then we varied. Instead of staring daggers, laser-like intensity. Glared at me with, it must go with the preposition with a laser-like intensity. So learn the whole phrase, not just single words. Okay. All right. Last one. Okay, dramatic short sentence. No one was up and about. Means there was no movement. There was no one. The coast was clear for now. Can somebody tell me why are these two short sentences effective? Why? Why can't, because if I were to use the word and, I can say no one was up and about and the coast was clear for now. Correct? So I'm going to type this and I want you to tell me what which one is better? This one with and a comma versus two short sentences. Which is more effective for this context? Is it A or B? Is it A or B? Which one? B, 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 B. So some of us, when we see, we intuitively know it's B. I don't know why, but it just works. Okay, so you need to know why so that you can replicate this, okay? A short sentence, no one was up and about. The coast was clear for now. It suggests alertness. So this one is grammatically perfect, but it drags things out. So what is more effective is this. The two short sentences tell us that the character was alert. Pay attention to a few things. Is there anyone? No. Is there any movement? No. Is there anyone at the back? No. So it is like a checklist. Done, done, done. I'm safe. Okay? So it's paced effectively. letting out a muffled whoop of joy. Why must it be muffled? What is a whoop of joy? Hmm, it's a muffled whoop of joy. Can you behind your screen try and show your parents what is a muffled whoop of joy? Okay, it's very soft. You're not even opening your mouth. I'm very happy, but I'm making a sound. Okay, so it's a muffled whoop of joy. Why? Because he's committing a crime. He has to be quiet. So this is an interesting phrase because very often we don't let out muffled whoops of joy. Maybe only for a thief, okay? Or for someone who is more introverted and receive good results, they might go, yes. Okay? Some people go, yes. Some people, yes. Okay, they do it quietly. I slipped the key into the padlock and turned it. To my chagrin, there was no sound of an expected click. It's an expected click. That means when I put the key into the lock and I unlock it, I expect there to be a click. That means it's open, unlocked. The shackle remained steadfastly embedded in its body. Technique is here, is used here. This personification. Shackle cannot be steadfast. What? Steadfast is a human quality, okay? Say, wow, the shackle is very stubborn. Personification. The shackle remains steadfast. Personification, right? Okay, so there's personification. It will not budge. No amount of repeated twisting, jamming, and nudging could coax the recalcitrant shackle. Again, personification. Because just like I told you, right, recalcitrant is someone who keeps breaking rules. But this is not a person. This is a lock. So it's saying that I did this, and this, and I could not coax it. Like, lock, please, oh, please unlock. You're talking to it. Okay, it refuses to budge. The shackle is recalcitrant. It will not give in to you. I was fraught with anxiety. Short sentence again. You realize this sentence is longer and then it's a shorter sentence after varying sentence lengths. Okay, so you model after these. Why am I labeling all these? Because when you're writing a compo and when you're looking at this model, remind yourself to use the same technique. Okay, vary sentence length. So no amount of this, and this could coax it. Full stop. I was fraught with anxiety. Right. What am I supposed to do now? Okay. Time was running out. Again, short sentence. No time. The corridor will not stay silent for long and would soon be overrun by a throng of high-spirited students. That means the school is going to be open. Right? If I miss this opportunity, I would never be able to access the contents of the cupboard ever again. Refusing to give up, I gave the key one last twist. This time, a click, which sounded more like a geriatric creak. What's a geriatric creak? You know, old people would say that their bones are creaking. Or when you have an oiled door hinge, it goes, "Ee." Yeah, that's a creak. So geriatric creak. Again, it is giving this lock a human-like quality, as if it's an old person and it's finally opening up itself, okay, the shackle. And the shackle finally yielded. That means it gave in. Success at last! Exclamation mark, short sentence. Okay, so this success at last is actually happiness, glee. Do you have to say, I was so happy? No, I was so happy it's telling. So success at last is an exclamation to show glee, okay? To show glee. Now let me ask you, in real life, this whole scenario, how long do you think it took? 2 hours? No, right? 1 hour? No. A few minutes. Probably a few minutes. Yeah, 5 minutes. Maximum 15 minutes, okay? 5 to 15 minutes scene. But the challenge, the emotion and all that make it sounds like it's never ending. Like, when will the shackle be released? So there's tension, there's anticipation, and we use the slow motion technique to do that. Because if you were to not use the slow motion, you will just finish saying this in maybe 2 sentences, right? I slipped the key into the padlock and turned it, but it refused to open. After a few tries, it finally opened. That's not slow motion. I don't have any description. I've got no emotion. I've got no personification. I've got no drama, no atmosphere. Exactly. So all of you know the short version. So the short version, the short version, which is what we don't want, because this is a very important scene. So this is what we don't want. So if you write like that and say, teacher, I already described the scene, but I don't know how to expand it. This is a model to show you. Okay? In this short version, I have no emotion. I cannot imagine your struggle. I cannot imagine how you twisted. Like over here, twisting, jamming, nudging. I don't know. You say try to unlock. What is try to unlock? Okay? Thank you, Mr. Sharma. You're here. Okay, I
Yes,
just
I
found
just
out.
want to add, this scene is very, very important. You can
Mm.
modify it for, say, unwrapping a present even.
Yes.
Recently, we did a special gift for the
Yes.
P5s. So very often they'll say they don't know how to describe the unboxing of it. So you see a mystery gift at the doorstep. So I carried it in, I opened it, and out popped a kitten. So it's all so fast. What you need to do is, surely none of you have tried to break in before. But if you actually close your eyes and imagine every single step, I think you would have watched movies or serials where people tried to, say, copy files from a computer before the actual owner of the computer comes back to the office. How many of you have seen scenes like that? People trying to steal data, trying
Eyes.
to break in, or trying to leave a place before discovered. I'm very sure you've seen it, right? Whether it's K-drama or
Yeah.
serials. So that scene you watch, sometimes it takes 5 minutes. So you have to think, how is it something so simple can take up so much time? And those of you who have read Harry Potter books, how many pages go to Quidditch? When you watch it in a movie, 10 minutes, okay, and the game is won already. But when you read the book, it could be 10, 20 pages. So there you have it. You have to slow down, not sum up actions. So that way, as long as you try, your teachers will appreciate the effort. So remember this, the simpler things seem to be, I think there is a chance for you to break it down. And particularly, if your topic is really hinging on tension and also on secrecy, the more you have to lengthen such particular paragraphs.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Sham. Oh, when did you join us? I just saw you.
Yes, just came back.
Just kidding. Yes, Mr. Sham had a lesson till late. Okay, so these are some models, and thank you, Mr. Sham, for explaining. Now, let me scroll. There
There are
are
actually some
two.
very good vocab. Can you scroll up?
Where?
I think let's
Which one?
remind them what to do with all these materials. Please don't throw them
Mm,
away.
yes,
Can
yes.
all of you scan through it and say which ones could you be tested for, say, S&T,
Yes.
transformation?
I told them.
You see, like vehemently, number 5, for example, I
Mm,
say Mavis protested vehemently when her teacher accused her of dirtying the floor. If your sentence starts with much vehemence, comma, Mavis protested. Okay, so all these you need to know. So vehemently is a very good word. It's like almost very, very strongly you do something with strength, like converge, convergence. So this is how you can build up vocabulary. Beyond composition, you have to make good use of our word list. Yeah,
mm. Yeah, convergence.
convergence. Yes,
Mm.
like extrication. Extrication.
Oh, yeah.
It took very long for the police to extricate somebody that is trapped in a car, right? So the extrication of the victim took much time. So this is how you build up vocabulary, not just memorize phrases. You also have to think when you can otherwise use these words for other purposes. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Mrs. Sham. Okay. On this page, you'll see two mini exercises. Okay, note two mini exercises. So I'm going to share with you some examples. Okay. And you can continue, you can take them down first, then you can continue practicing them on your own. Extrication means to remove. Okay, extrication is a removal. Removal, the noun. Okay, let me give you an example. So now let's say there's this girl. There's this girl called Stacy. Okay, this is the name that we always give this character. ST. Stacy. Okay, and this is Stacy. Look at her face. And her body, and she's shivering. You see these curly whirly lines here. Okay, this is Stacy or Stacy, EY. So Stacy is very frightened because she told a lie. She did something wrong, and she's afraid of being found out. Okay? So uh let's say the scenario is this. She had broken someone's laptop. We are looking at picture 3 again. Let's say she broke someone's laptop. And then now this person is going to march towards her and question her. Okay? How can we show not tell her fear? So in the chat, you can share with Mrs. Sham and I some sentences. Okay, some sentences. You at this point you don't need to give us like a long paragraph. Some sentences you can use to show. I don't want to see the word frightened. I don't want to see the word frightened or scared. Okay. So let me block that out. Okay. So don't use the word scared or frightened. Okay. How would someone who is scared behave? So I'm going to start you off. I'm going to start you off. Okay, so that you give you a bit of time to think. Look at her the shaky lines. Okay.
There's a very simple formula to this.
Mm,
Usually when they are in fright, can you tell me what your actions become actually? Do you like have very long actions or short actions?
no.
The
Short
tip is
and
always to
stiff.
freeze first. It's always to
Short and
freeze
stiff.
first.
Yes.
Yes, to freeze, to tremble. And then this is another trick I tell my students, to have internal thoughts, to have things wondering what happens if you get caught. It's just like some of you, I think all of us have this experience. You don't do so well for your WA or test. And the whole day, you're thinking, what might just happen when you get home? It's the facing the music is probably just like 10 minutes of shelling from your parents, right? But the suspense actually lasts the entire day. From the time you get your results back to the time you actually face the music, get scolded or get nagged at, what are the things that run on in there? So here, teacher Mavis has done what is very useful. You think about your fingers or
Yeah.
your tears. Are you? It's sometimes panic can cause some people to behave in a very strange way. What's knuckles? What's knuckles? The joints here, knuckles. If you clench your fist very tight, you will find that it leaves marks on your palm, right? It also shows how tense somebody is.
Okay, so
So you
Mr.
always
Shah,
think what you
please.
do with your hand,
Yes.
your heart, whether you're rooted to the ground. Some people just don't know what to say or don't know what to do. But your mind would be most active. That's why your heart starts pounding. Your heart starts pounding because you have a lot of very, very horrible things you're imagining. What if I'm caught? Would I be expelled? Would I be made to pay for the laptop, for example?
Okay, so there's another character because she's scared of Jill, whose laptop she destroyed. So there is
Yes.
anger. There's also anger, but fear. Just now Mr. Shah mentioned froze, right? Froze, not walking. Then I always tell students, Mr. Shah always tells students to just do a body scan, right? Like, how does your head feel? Is it
Body
numb?
scan, yeah.
Right? Your what about your face, your facial muscles, or if not, what about your throat? Right? Is it dry? Can you speak? What about your heart? So you just do some body scan and then you pick three. Not your whole body because that would be like 2 pages. So pick three most intense to show. Like over here froze. Her jaws are stuck, they be clamped shut. Whatever Jill asks, she won't be able to answer. Right? And then just now I mentioned about throat. So let me finish typing this. Mr. Sham is taking a look at your responses, okay?
Yes, they have clenching fists, trying to hold back, fury, biting fingernails, all these, yeah, show nervousness. Now you think about it. How does AI at airports pick up terrorists or people who are likely to misbehave, even at shops? The scanner actually scans your body, for temperature. People who have
Hmm.
bad intentions, it's not, you cannot say, oh, the person is red on the scanner because she's having a fever and walking through the shop. No, it is very natural on lie detector tests and for scanners. Once your body temperature rises or your heartbeat or your eye looks shifty, all these are clues that someone has something naughty up his or her sleeve or is guilty of something.
Just now we were talking about the use of internal monologue, but this is third person's perspective. So
Mm,
a few questions the character could ask herself. So over here,
yes.
what should I say to extricate myself? Or over here, what should she say? Okay, or would my friend hate me forever? Would Jill sever ties
Hate
with
her
me? Okay.
forever. Yes. Would Jill hate her forever if you're doing third person? Sever their friendship.
Okay. So these are some ways to show that she's not just scared, but her body, there are certain body parts that are tense and shut. Everything is frozen and things are going through her mind. Okay? So these are some examples. Clench her fist, bite her nails. Yeah, nail biting is fine. Now, what about this one? Escape from a fierce dog. You know, in real life, if your dog chases you, it's super fast, right? Like, just running past you. But now, if we have to slow down and an escape from a fierce dog is not just the running. We are not slowing down just the running. We are going to also that what is the key emotion in this paragraph? It's very similar, but more intense. There is fear, and then there is panic, more
Yes.
intense.
There's
Okay?
also horrifying, yes, there's also that mortification. What if you get mauled to death, because some of them have watched those scary movies, where the dog pounces on them right in the face. So to
Yes.
cut this short, those who are very sloppy with this to just say, the dog kept on chasing me and I kept on running.
Yes.
Yes, I ran for my life. Okay, so running for your life is not descriptive. What does it mean by running for your life? So again, you have to slow motion this into, imagine in a children's show. Okay, say somebody provokes a dog or provokes a goat at a farm. And then the person gets chased around the farm up a tree by the goat. It cannot be just the goat chased me. I climb up the tree in desperation. Again, you have to
Mm.
slow motion it. How do you
Give you all an
actually run?
example. Yes.
Yes. And I think they have also watched movies where there's some people who are being stalked, right? You think about stalking. What do they actually do when they are running? Do you actually just run straight or do you turn around? And that's where the fun starts, right? When you turn around and you turn back, you stumble. Then the dog gets closer to you now. You have to scramble to your feet and continue running. So the trick in a lot of compo is just to lengthen this complication a little bit. Don't just run and successfully run away. Then there's nothing to write. In most drama, anyway, Mavis, like
Yeah.
Taiwanese drama. People never ever get arrested successfully by the police. Somehow they get away. or the chase is
A
lengthened
never-ending
by
chase.
two more junction. Yeah, because if the police chase is just, within seconds, the dog caught up and bit me at my ankle. And then I found myself in the hospital next minute. This actually won't work. It's not very realistic either.
Yes.
So I like
Okay.
this. Josh's foot barely touched the ground before he lunged forward. Who lunged forward? Is it it?
He was trying to like
Some
run
of you
as
tried to take strikes, white strikes. His breath coming in short panic gasps. So you also have to think, you're not describing your foot. Your lung and your capacity to go
exactly.
on must be there, because some of you try to run fast, but you cannot breathe fast enough. So you actually will end up stopping. And then you need to hear what is happening behind you. How do you know the dog is really hot at your heels? So you have a growl rumble behind him, deep and menacing. Describe the sound, because if a monster doesn't sound scary, then it sounds as if there's silence from behind, it sounds as if you're quite safe. So you need to have all these frightening effects behind, sending a shiver up his spine. His arms pumped as he sprinted, but every second felt stretched, each step heavy as if he were running through thick mud. Now, why do you think teacher Mavis wrote this? Heavy as if running through thick mud. Have all of you tried running in a pool? Instead of treading water, have you tried running through water? Can you run as fast? There's resistance, isn't it? So imagine you're trying to run through mud. It's almost as if your leg is being pulled down before you can lift up to move front. So all these are interesting similes that you can use. Okay, you can always recycle them. Every time you need to panic or run away, you can do Stacy. She's not running away. She's just standing there petrified, right? Then here is a running one. So sometimes you need different scenarios to cope with different topics. Yeah, when you run from a fierce dog, you
Organizations.
really have to run.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, this is a work in progress. I realize for my students, it takes some models, some examples, and practice for you to. So I was telling the students, right, I think you were here already, like you can't just read these models and go, oh, very nice. You must take
Yeah,
out a piece of
write
paper
it
and
out.
then write
Yes.
it out, like your own scenario. Okay?
Actually,
Dog
someone
chasing.
asked me this week, how do you start the next paragraph then? So
Huh?
can I just give them a tip? So here you
Okay.
are running and running, right? Still running. Then let's double tap to the next one. So you run out of time or energy, like what happens next? You can say, still the dog was relentless in its, or the monstrous creature was relentless in its pursuit. So this is a trick also. If you have a very frightening dog, yes, it's a dog, but don't keep calling it the dog because it sounds so adorable. So you can say, still the menacing creature or the monstrous creature continue relentlessly in its pursuit. I think that's enough to frighten the wits out of any child already. It's almost like a demon chasing after you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Choosing
Then
faster.
what
Okay.
happens next? You better just fall and get bitten. If not, you will drag this for 2 more junctions, which we have no time for. So use the word
Thank you.
still rather than
Yes.
I
Still.
continued running or Josh continued running.
Or you can use yet. If you have put in a lot of effort and still chasing me, yet is fine. Yet it was
Yet.
still hot on my heels.
Or
Okay?
unfortunately also can.
Unfortunately.
Okay.
Yes.
Just to show that, whatever you did couldn't widen the gap between you and the dog.
Yes. Okay, some students are typing in some things. Take a
Keegan
look.
has a
Let me.
nice one. Josh's heart skipped a beat. Each step felt like his life depended on it. Yes, yes, yes.
Mm.
Any step slower, you get bitten to death. Very
Okay.
good.
Just now we spoke about moral dilemma when we were going through the story mountain and the topic. So the moral dilemma, I think many students know. I'm not going to belabor, but let's highlight some things that you you need to know. Okay, so firstly, the word moral. So some students asked last week, what's a dilemma? What's a moral dilemma? Moral dilemma involves certain values that you have, okay? So very often is related to integrity, responsibility, right? So for example, you're supposed to take care of your younger sibling, but your friend asked you to go to the arcade, right? So how? What's your responsibility? Okay, so now you have a moral dilemma. So integrity, responsibility. It involves moral principles, okay? Doing what is right versus doing what is convenient or pleasant, more pleasant, okay? Okay, I'll let Mrs. Shock answer the question. Let me continue. Um, what are some useful tips? Okay, so a lot of students, when they write about moral dilemma, they sometimes put it in one sentence. He didn't know he should do this or to do that. Full stop. Eventually, he decided to do this. That's all. Two sentences. And then there's your moral dilemma. So moral dilemma cannot be two sentences. You must show the struggle because it's a dilemma. It's not a decision. It's a dilemma. So firstly, you need to make sure that your characters have competing desires. That means there are two things they want. They want to be honest, and yet they want to be a good friend. Okay, so there must be two things they want. And these must be both strong beliefs that they stick to. Okay? Letting go of either is painful. So this is an example. So let's say gangster will not betray his fellow gang members. Okay, so I said, should I go and call the police? You know, they did something terrible, they committed a crime. So maybe I shall not. Okay? So after being caught, he decided to cooperate. He gave the names of his accomplices. However, when he gets released, he's going to have to face those gangsters again. Okay, so it's going to be quite scary for him. So that's a struggle. He has to decide which one. Over here, some related ideas. Okay, some related ideas common at your level. Loyalty to friend versus justice. Very often, okay? Should I be loyal or should I do something right? Versus justice or honesty based on primary school type topics. Okay? Or turning a blind eye, that means you pretend you don't know. Turning a blind eye or covering up versus being honest, okay? So not saying something is also wrong if you know that something is incorrect. Okay, I didn't tell a lie, yeah, but you didn't say the truth as well. Okay? So this is something for you to consider. It cannot be simple. Eating chicken rice or duck rice is not a dilemma, it's a decision. Okay? Put your character's convictions to the test. Ta-da! This is at our rising action climax around that area. So we want to make sure that our characters are going through some sort of pressure. And this pressure, which is linked to the next point, so when we talk about putting your character or forcing your character into a corner, firstly, there is pressure. Okay? If I do this, this group of boys will be feeling this way. If I don't do this, then I cannot live with myself. And most students will have that. Fine. But usually it gets resolved so quickly. So one thing you want to think about is your character has time pressure as well. That means they cannot take their own sweet time, 2 months to decide whether they should report on their friend or not. Okay? The test is happening now. You see your friend cheating now. The examiner is there now. You need to make a decision now because once they collect all the papers, it's you say versus he say. No one can get caught red-handed, you understand? So time pressure must act now. And that's when we need to drag out that decision process. Yes, it might take a few minutes, it might take half an hour. Half an hour ago, you saw him copying. He is still copying. He's not going to learn his lesson. So now you have to make your decision, okay? They are forced to act fast. They are forced to live with the consequences. Broken friendship or having a terrible conscience, okay? So these are time pressures. Force them into a corner. They cannot say, I don't want to decide. No, must decide. Okay? This picture, a lot of students like to use this. Okay, the devil versus the angel. A voice in my head. Okay, I know there are many voices in your head, but there are sometimes these are. Mrs. Shah, I'm not sure if you have students who use this
Yes, the
imagery.
devil told me this. Then yet the angel in me told me that, okay, a little bit too cartoony.
Okay,
You
okay,
really
yeah.
have
So
to
I
do it
do.
seriously. Have to really do it seriously, because if you're in that situation, you have no time to label them as what devil and the angel. It is really a lot of internal questions. Okay, if I were to raise my hands, my friend would obviously know that I am telling on him, right? The friendship would come to an end. Yet, if I were to turn a blind eye, I would be accomplice to a crime. I think sometimes you have to use very strong words, because if you see something that's wrong and you don't report it, you are as good as
Mm,
being what you call an accessory to the crime in legal terms, right? You become a helper rather than someone who does what is right. So I put in the chat for them,
mm,
all dilemmas, you need vocabulary to do with moral courage at the end. It's not physical
mm,
courage. It's not, should I run into a fire to save the kitten or just walk away? It's not that kind of courage. It is the courage to do what is right, even if you were to lose all your friends or not be popular anymore, or even
mm,
owning up to your own faults. There's a risk that for those who are prefects, you might get stripped off your rank, right? So moral courage. It's not just devil or angel having two voices, and also it's not a matter of hearing voices. It is weighing the consequences while knowing that all of us know what is the right thing to do, but we struggle because we don't feel like doing it. It's too hard
mm,
to do it. Now all of us know we must raise our hands, but yet we don't.
mm, mm. Okay, so yes, this is the one that will not work. It's actually awkward. So
Yes.
there is no need to tell me devil or angel. What we share with you here, it's useful. Okay, useful enough. And it's smooth. Now, let's take a look at this. Okay, there is a moral dilemma happening here. Uh, but it may not be effective all the time. So let's take a look, okay? You have been sworn to secrecy. You know what sworn to secrecy? This is a collocation. Sworn to secrecy is a collocation, okay? That means your friend told you to swear not to tell others about the secret. Okay, so learn this collocation, sworn to secrecy. By your best friend who begs you not to reveal the fact that she has been the one stealing from others. Oh my gosh. An innocent person has been accused of that theft instead. Oh my gosh. Okay, so now it's very complex, right? You cannot say, you know. Okay, so you have the knowledge, you have the knowledge of the wrongdoing, but you can't do anything about it. You need to keep quiet, right? Okay, give me a moment. Let me this one. So now the situation is this. It's not that you don't know, because if you don't know, no one can fault you. But now you know. So do you fight for justice? Fight for this innocent person's justice, this scapegoat, okay? Or are you going to choose loyalty? But we put blind here because actually it's no good.
Hmm.
It will come back to bite you, okay? How can you defend someone who is hurting others? No. So this accused person who is wrongly blamed going to be the scapegoat of sorts, okay? We want to stand up for this person. So that's the context. Upon hearing that Daphne had been falsely accused of committing the spate of thefts, I was torn, full stop. Although she was not a close friend, I was reminded of her kindness when she took me to the sick bay last year when I fell and injured myself. Ah, so she's kind of indebted, right? She's kind of indebted to Daphne. Like, Daphne is a very nice person. And she did something kind for me before. She even helped me. Moreover, just because she was on the school's financial assistance scheme, FAS, did not mean she would steal from others. Okay? So this person is kind and good. She does not have an easy circumstance, right? To be on FAS means the family is working very hard. They have some struggles financially, okay? Her life is not smooth sailing whatsoever. Then now, an added accusation. Does she deserve it? No, she does not deserve it. Okay? She didn't do anything wrong. I was incensed. Incensed, very good. Okay, so incense is telling. It's a telling word. Just now Mr. Shah was telling them you cannot show in every single sentence because there'll be readers' fatigue. So when you're not showing and you're doing telling, tell using a vivid verb or a vivid adjective. Can? So instead of saying I was angry, you can say I was incensed, very angry. That she was being framed for something she did not do. Yet, Sarah had pleaded with me not to divulge her secret that she was the one behind the thefts when I caught her in the act. Okay? This incense is it's also indignance, okay? I was indignant, I was incensed. Okay? Hmm. Did I have the heart to tattle on her? Here comes the key questions. You'll start to see question marks. Because this is where our character is asking very important moral questions. You'll see question marks, right? You see question marks over here. Did I have the heart to tattle on? That means tell on, snitch. A lot of you will know that word. Snitch on, tattle on her and put an end to our years of friendship. However, Daphne's innocence weighed on my conscience. A beautiful phrase, collocation as well. Okay? Something can gnaw on your conscience, that means chewing on it, or weigh on your conscience. It's fine. And learn how to spell conscience. It's conscience. Okay? There's an S. And I was the only one who could exonerate her. Okay? Give her, to reveal the truth, to free her from this false accusation. Did I have the courage to do what was right? So these two questions are part of the questions narrator asked while going through this dilemma, this moral dilemma. But you realized there's a whole paragraph. It is not just these two questions, am I right? Because sometimes when students develop moral dilemma, that is all they give me two questions and then they give me the decision. So that is not ideal. What we want is to provide the context, provide why does it make it so difficult to keep the secret. Let's say this Daphne is a nasty person, also always hurting others. Will this moral dilemma be so painful for our character? Maybe there'll still be a dilemma because after all the person didn't do anything wrong. Okay, but because Daphne is so good and nice, she really does not deserve it. Okay? What does rhetorical question mean? Those students asking. Yes,
Yeah,
rhetorical
so
question
I
is a
shared,
question. Yes.
all of you, please look in the chat. I've typed in some
Mm,
very short sentences. So some of them, maybe time is running out. There's no time to write 10 sentences like in the sample. So what you can do is to have very dramatic sentences like what I typed in there. I shook with fury, too incensed to respond. So the moral part of you feels very angry for the victim. How could anyone make another person a scapegoat for her crime? Then very, very sharp because your mind is just switching from left and right. Yet I wavered. Wavered means at first you're saying, okay, I must report this. But then I wavered. Did
mm,
I have the courage to stand up for Daphne? Okay, so sometimes you have to think about how to present it in a way that's realistic. Actually, when you're confused, you wouldn't have very long
mm.
sentences in your head.
Yes.
You are
I'm going to share.
rambling in your thought, but not in the length form. It is in the form of really having two sides to choose on very quickly, feeling angry, yet not being able to do something for the person you feel so sorry for. I think that's the tragedy of it for many of us.
I've shared something. I'm going to type because it seems to be hanging. Some things seem to be hanging. So let me.
But we can see it's quite good. Again, some little tricks. Instead of, I didn't know what to do, I was torn. Or my
Oh, this
heart
is
was
very clean.
torn into bits, okay? I mean, not in a heartbroken way, but you are torn between actions. So the word torn is actually an imagery for feeling. You think about ripping a piece of paper, torn, okay? So that effect. Daphne had been the kindest person to me. While her family was impoverished, I knew she was above such crime, or I knew she would never steal. I could vouch
Mm,
for her integrity. How could Sandra push the blame onto such an innocent girl? So again, short sentences, internal thoughts. And
mm,
next one, do the same facial scanning. How do you do? I glance at my best friend and fume. Or you could use the one I put in the chat. I shook with
mm.
fury, too
Yes.
horrified to respond. I think there's a mixture of feeling. You feel sorry for someone, you're angry with your friend, yet you're angry with yourself for not being able to do something on the spot. It's everything mingled in one. Okay? And yet you're looking at this person in front of you. There she was, acting angelic and blameless, a face of hypocrisy. Okay, a two-faced demoness she is. So all these brings out the
Yeah.
injustice of the situation. Right? So you see there are lots of questions here. They're not questions for you to answer, actually. These are what you call rhetorical questions. Internal thoughts that in the
Mm,
form of rhetorical question is for you to ask yourself, what is the next step? What is the next best thing to do? Something like the way teachers try to guide you in class. You know, when they ask you, are you following? They're not actually asking you for a yes, no answer. They're asking you to check whether you have missed out on copying notes. So again, the trick, use yet,
mm,
still, or unfortunately, or
mm.
yes,
Now, Mr. Sean
oddly.
talking about linking words. Today I was talking to my class. I'm not sure if you notice it. I'm sure it's quite a common thing. Students using the word suddenly as a linking
Yes,
word.
suddenly, yes. Suddenly.
Okay.
No, things cannot be suddenly.
Since we have about 3 minutes before 9:30, there's some can all of you give us some alternatives beside the only right way to use suddenly if it really happened suddenly. That means it popped
Before
out.
I could think, before I could
Yes.
utter a word, before I could raise my hand, something like that. You're just trying to show between two actions, something else happened first. Actually, it's not suddenly. Like, for example, the dog cannot suddenly lunge at you. There are signs, you know. If you provoke any animal or say a dog, there are signs it's going to come at you, right? It would be growling. Sometimes they lower their ears and they're staring intently at you. So it's more like before I could turn to run for my life, it lunged at me. Not that it suddenly lunged. It sounds so casual that it doesn't capture the ferociousness, okay, the ferocious nature of the attack. Yeah.
Yes.
So
Just
do like
then.
a
Just
pawn.
then. Out of the
Okay,
blue.
I want to, I can I take this chance to neck something from SNT can do. No sooner had I ... then, okay, these are the sentence structures you have learned. Hardly had I thought of a solution when Stacy struck first, something like that. Before you could
So
even think, or just when you wanted to do something, another thing happened. So all these can show the quickness. You're not showing the suddenness, but you want to show that everything happened nearly at the same time.
so some students are saying, okay, teacher, if I cannot use suddenly, can I use out of the blue? It's the same thing.
It's the same thing. Oh, I
Okay.
know. The other one, then they'll ask, like a bolt from, like a bolt of thunder, is it? Like a bolt from the
Thunderbolt.
blue.
Yeah, thunderbolt. like thunderbolt. So
Even
I
for
know, I
lightning,
understand
there
because
are there are
they learn
signs
some
that,
phrases
yeah, like a
or they are
bolt
not
from the
sure what
blue.
to write.
Yes.
They're not sure what to write.
Mm.
So now I've given you some alternatives, okay? Use time linking. I find time linking the most effective. Before, after, before I could, unknown to me. Upon hearing that, I. So these link the previous action to the next action. Because things actually don't happen out of the blue. We are not in SpongeBob SquarePants, okay? Things don't happen out of the blue. Things happen for a reason. Either someone has been stalking or ambushing, then they appeared, but they didn't just pop out of thin air. So there are many words to use, okay? Instead of
Even
suddenly.
when
Most
it
of the
comes
time when
to
I say
say,
suddenly, it's
we did
come
one
on.
with the P-Force, a kind
Mm,
act recently.
mm,
So even for plots where you're walking, then you heard meowing from the drain.
mm.
Again, they will say, suddenly I heard
Suddenly,
meowing. Yeah, so the same thing. Can you say, no sooner had I turned the corner, than something caught my eye? Or hardly had I walked 2 steps when I heard a strange sound. What was that? It sounded like the faint cries from an animal. Was it a cat or the whimpering of a
exactly,
dog? Yeah, so you have to
exactly.
show at least where you are, so that
Yes,
the reader can imagine, oh, you were jogging, you were turning, you were going round the bend, or you were turning to the next street. Then you heard
yes,
something.
yes. And something I told my students today, I know it's 9:30, let me finish this. So something I told my students today was this, you can just use a sound word. So instead of saying, suddenly I heard a crash, full stop, just put crash, exclamation mark. Then your reaction to it, that has more impact. Okay? So there are many ways. Okay. Uh, it is 9:32. Thank you for staying with us. Thank you, Mrs. Sham, for joining us. And thank you, Sweaty, for being here supporting us as well. Our next session will take place on 28th March. Okay, 21st March is Hari Raya Puasa, so enjoy the festivities, enjoy the public holiday. We'll see you on the 28th March. Okay, 28th
28th
March.
March. Okay.
So look out for the materials. You'll receive an email and then you can download and print it. Thank you, Sweaty, for sharing the link with everybody. The last session. Conclusion writing, super important. I nagged so much. I nagged so much in class today about conclusion
Actually,
writing.
if you have the materials already, some of you
Mm,
can start practicing writing paragraphs,
yes.
okay? Because
Yes.
different people need to work on different things. Some of you start very
Mm,
well, but you never
mm.
get to conclude, okay? You just end off with, this day will be etched in my head forever. Okay, don't do
Yeah,
that.
no.
Or ring, the alarm rang. Some of you still
Mm,
start with that. So think you have the materials, what you can do, just write short paragraphs, practice writing, or use the samples like the ones on this page,
mm.
use it, and
Or
then
the
try.
models,
Yes, yes.
the models as well. Okay, look at how they begin, how they end, and then practice using the words, phrases, and structures as well. Okay. All right. Thank you, Keegan. You're very polite. Thank you, everybody. Have a very good rest, and we shall see you on the 28th. Okay. Very polite. Thank you. Take care. Thank you, Sweaty.